Yo, what's good? Hello, everybody. Joey JayPing here, checking in live, man. RespectMyRegion.com. Here today on the first official episode of the Cannabis Retail Podcast. Today's episode brought to you guys by Sparks. You guys can visit sparkscan.com to learn more. These guys specialize in marketing, optimizing results on Weedmaps, Leafly, and Yelp. They will grow your revenue. And we actually today are joined by my co-host for this show, my partner on this series, as well as two others. We have the CEO and founder of Sparks. We have Kevin Sparks in the building. What's good? What's good, Kevin? How you living?
Yes, sir. Everything's going good over here in Cali.
Come on, baby. You're over there in the Central Valley. You're in the middle of the state.
Yeah. Yeah, dead center, like even Fresno area, but it's like a little small town called Dinuba, about 45 minutes southeast.
I love that, man. I love that. It's you're centrally located. You've got a bunch of clients in the Bay. You've got some clients spread out through the state. We're collaborating on 3 podcasts, and so today's the episode to make the announcement. Right, we got some major news.
Yep.
Right, we've got this Cannabis Retail Podcast, Kevin, and we've got the Oregon Cannabis Podcast, and we've got the California Cannabis Podcast, all brought to you guys by Sparks. Okay, we are here to tell the stories of Oregon, to tell the stories of California, and on today's episode with the Cannabis Retail Podcast, we are going to be spitting game about Weedmaps, Leafly, and Yelp. I'm going to dive into Kevin's background. We're going to talk about those 3 platforms a little bit, and then next month and each month we'll continuously break down and unpack tips, tricks, strategies, plays to make, creative recommendations for you guys to make money, or to realize that you can't do it all yourself, and ultimately you should just call Kevin and Sparks and the team there anyways. So, Kevin, welcome to the show. I appreciate you. Without further ado, let me light my joint. Spark it up, baby. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
I don't know about you, but we'd like to spark it up around here. And talking with you and just seeing the word sparks and cannabis, I've got to smoke a joint, because today we're going to talk marketing. Kevin, you seem like a younger dude. You seem like someone who's knows technology. You got this headset on there, like you're used to taking calls and zooming in all day long. Talk to me. What was the thought process about launching Sparks? Why Weedmaps, Leafly, and Yelp? How did you get into all this?
Yeah. I started in cannabis at a dispensary delivery called Purple Lotus in San Jose. Um, and what's funny enough is I used to work for a general nutrition center out in San Jose. And when I was kind of recruited by them, the first thing I did was look them up on Weedmaps to see if they were legit or not. And, sure enough, they were, top 3 dispensary in the area. So I was like, all right, that's a pretty good sign. But started, I showed up to the interview and kind of rebuilt their website and redid some of their marketing and branding. And so, it went well. I got the job over there, and, quickly I started to understand that I mean, Weedmaps, Leafly's marketplaces were real powerhouses for these businesses. And so I spent, 2 years, 2.5 years at Purple Lotus, and um, we were able to get, the marketplaces to improve their return, to get more new customers coming in through the door. And it was something that was crazy because I've never seen it to where, you could see 50 new patients from a single platform in a single day. And I know the narrative had always been, they're not necessarily that sticky. They'll just kind of come in and then make their purchase and then disappear forever. And that was
Yeah.
always kind of like, that's really the narrative that you hear online these days, even still today. And so it was always a big thing for me to understand, what's the true lifetime value of these guys? Are they actually not that sticky? Is it just kind of a one and done, or do they come back? And so I spent a long time trying to, figure out that equation. And, we had a lot of success at Purple Lotus. And then I ended up leaving and joining Weedmaps and started working over there. And I was there for about 4 years, and I got to learn the ins and outs of the platform. And then I was still working with, I was working with hundreds of kind of retailers while I was working at Weedmaps, and being able to work with them and talk about not just Weedmaps, but also Leafly, Yelp, which are our main platforms we help manage today. And you could tell that it was a powerhouse and it brought in a lot of money, but there was always still like it was a black box. Like, well, how much money exactly is it bringing in? I can ask my customers, how'd you hear about us today? And we can tally a sheet, right? But there wasn't really too much data
Yep.
around how much
It was
full
tough back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it was, I mean, in the glory days, there was something where, it's always been expensive on these platforms, but I remember, sometimes when you would, you'd give them, a few thousand and you'd just be bringing in hundreds of people every single day, depending on kind of which region you were in, which market you were in. And it's still, there's still a lot of revenue that's being driven in on these platforms, but the funny days where yeah, like before these marketplaces even had online ordering, and there was just really no data whatsoever. It was just completely like, if you can measure it some way, great, but most likely you're not going to be able to receive any type of data. Like 2 years after I joined Weedmaps, they started to release data, and I was part of the teams that were kind of helping roll that out and figure out for clients what data is important to them, so that they could measure it. And after a while, I came from the retailer's side of the table, where I could represent them and help them make decisions that were best in the best interest of their business and profitability. And I thought there was kind of a better way to do it while I was at Weedmaps, if I could go back onto that other side of the table and represent the retailers again and be able to help them understand the ins and outs of these platforms. So they're not just kind of throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks. They can leverage the data and truly leverage the platform and the advertising and the positions properly and all the features, and so that they
Hmm.
can maximize their return, and not just like another narrative that you hear online is just, oh, it's just kind of set it and forget it. These marketplaces just hand the advertising spend over, they'll give you a listing, and then money will come in. And you can run it that way. Like you can totally just send them a check every month, and then whatever you get, you get. But the reality is, most of the retailers that we partner up with, when we check into their data, um, one of the biggest things that I did when I started this agency was I built a proprietary dashboard so that you can uncover the true metrics of these marketplaces, see how much revenue is coming in, not just how much is coming in, but how much is being completed. And then also, what are your efficiency metrics with these platforms?
And the reason you did that is because of the pain points that you experienced dealing with the other platforms that existed out there, right? We
Yeah.
had our team had identified this a few years ago. I know you mentioned that you had identified this offline in our last conversation about not all the data that these text message companies or these weed maps and leaflies, type of companies, what they were identifying as successful like revenue, it wasn't being attributed correctly to the appropriate places. It was kind of
Yeah.
all discombobulated and disconnected, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of estimated revenue impact formulas that you get out there.
Estimated.
That's the key word. Yeah. If you see that, there's a little, I mean, and to not say it's completely false, right? Because there are core metrics that are being measured when you give those estimations, but so much of it was just truly a guesstimation. And even today, I mean, everyone we tap in with is just guesstimating. And so today there's a lot better data. There's the integrations, there's orders integrations, and you can see, okay, this is from a POS standpoint, how much revenue came in from these marketplaces through the integration. But now, even with that, the major problem a lot of these retailers are making is they're looking at just that number and not understanding that there is a lot more value and sales being driven in, especially for dispensaries. Because if you're looking, let's say we're on Weedmaps as a user, and you find the dispensary on there, about 5 times the amount of orders being placed on the marketplace are users just walking in through your door. And the only way really to track that is to be asking your new customers, how'd you hear about us today? And
Yeah.
a lot of retailers don't want to hear that. They don't want to believe it. I was just talking to one in San Diego, and they were like, we ran a study where we put a fictitious marketing funnel as the number one option, and it got selected like 30% of the time. And so it's like, oh, so we don't believe any of it. And I think you can put a plus or minus variable on it, and you can say, okay, there is a likelihood that a certain percent is not correct, but that doesn't mean you throw out all the data because of it, right?
Yeah.
Because If you're bringing in $1 million and you know, well, there's a 30% variable. Okay, well then at the worst it's bringing in 700,000. At the best it's bringing in 1.3. But you can still leverage that data to get that range. But if on the other side, if they're bringing 100,000, you know, at the low point it's 70,000 versus 130,000. So
Mm-hmm.
you can still project properly and give it a good guesstimation, but you don't want to just throw away the data because you know that it's not perfect, and none of the data will ever be perfect for any of these platforms, right?
I think that's something important to recognize is that the data isn't perfect, but we are trying to get closer and closer to more accurate and more data driven, data
Yeah.
informed decision making, right?
Yeah.
And I use this phrase called mitigating risk all the time.
Yeah.
And as retailers, there's a lot of risk involved. Let's touch on some of them. We know turnover is rough for bud tenders. We know
Absolutely.
that the day that the product is put into packaging and stored, and then the day the order is placed, uh, uh, it's starting to degrade. As soon as air is
Yeah.
touching weed, it starts to degrade. So we've
Yeah.
got a ticking time bomb of weed going bad in flower form, the biggest category, and also second or third biggest category depending on the state, right? With pre rolls,
Hmm.
you got oils, which are vapes, big category, right? You got
Hmm.
dabs, not such a big category, but
No,
rosin,
there's heavy dab users though.
rosin so popular, but not a velocity mover by any means, not a categorical change someone's life by any means.
Yep.
There's a lot that goes into it as a retailer, and so many
Yeah.
different things to consider when it comes to the tech stack, the data, the mitigating the risk. You got brand relationships. You know, you get along with this vendor, but their product doesn't sell that fast, but you reorder every time you need it. And then there's this product over here that sometimes goes out of stock, but if you had it all the time, you'd make more money every day than you normally would make. Like
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into it. Talk to me a little bit about the coaching that you do. Talk to me a little bit about what goes into your management of these different platforms, because I would imagine some people are just tired of playing the game. They're just sick of
Yeah.
it. They throw the controller down. They're ready to throw it at the TV. They're done. But in California, Weedmaps a necessary evil.
Sure.
Oregon, Leafly, necessary evil.
Hmm.
Washington, Leafly, necessary evil.
Hmm.
So those are my words. You're not saying it. Those are my words. All right.
Right.
So if you have to have them because there's a marketplace of consumers looking to make purchases there, right, in those
Yeah.
three states, which is what we're talking to, what do you do on those platforms to maximize someone's time on there? Because I
Yeah.
as a retailer, I don't think you can be on there for free anymore,
No. No.
right?
Yelp's the only one,
Yep.
really, but there's
So, so if you wanted to do something for free and maximize your time, you'd start with Yelp, which is where the majority of consumers are at anyways. They're not on Weedmaps or Leafly. Regular
not. Right.
world people
Yeah.
that go to football games, that
Hmm.
buy water from Costco, that go to the grocery store for their last minute egg breakfast that they're doing on Saturdays and Sundays, right? That's like we're on regular social media. We're on
Yeah.
regular apps. We're on things like
Yeah.
Yelp, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that's the, like, you know, the OG marketplace, you know, that's just kind of the
So what do you
everyone
do
knows.
there to help immediately? Like, yo, man, I can turn that around. You're not even on Yelp. Let me get you on there. Let me do this and this and this. It's like a magic
Yeah.
wand, and you're a Jedi, right? You wave your hand, right? I'm sure it's that exact easy, right?
Yeah, of course. All of this is. Um, Yelp is vastly easier compared to Leafly Weedmaps. I mean, if you're not optimizing your Yelp, there's no reason not to, right? Because Weedmaps, Leafly, there's a lot of day-to-day management. Yelp is a lot more set it and forget it. It still needs constant updates and TLC. You want to manage the reviews. You want to make sure your graphics are updated. But with Yelp
Because
and
you can use it as a messaging channel, right? If you're running
100%.
daily sales or monthly things, or if you wanted to communicate certain messaging or use it to
Yeah.
attract something, it's a tool. It's got real estate.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that there are users on all three of these platforms. And it's what it really comes down to in my eyes when you look at the data, it's what is your conversion rate on those listing page visitors? Because if you just kind of put up a listing and it has your name and your phone number and address, you know, there's no real incentive for these customers to convert, or these potential customers into converting to an actual customer. And so a lot of times, you know, it's a marketplace. That's why when you type in dispensary near me on Google, you'll have the Google places, but then the top organic results are always these marketplaces. That's because, I mean, just think about it. It makes sense. If you're looking for where to shop, you want to look through your options. So it's very easy to get someone onto your listing. And that's why a big thing of what we do is optimizing the conversion rates, making sure that once you get them onto the listing, you can get them onto your website or onto your e-commerce platform or just straight
Yep.
up into your store and get them to actually place the order. But yeah, they're all great they're all great platforms to be able to communicate what differentiates you, because a lot of people, I mean, today everyone has the most fireweed, right? Everyone's got the best. It's not always that true, right? But that's what everyone, you pretty much hear it every single day.
Premium.
Premium branding. Um, and so, it's very easy to say those things, but you really want to be able to communicate what's your differentiator. Like, why should you visit us as opposed to everyone else? Some people leverage deals. Some people leverage, just premium branding, carrying all the top brands, all the top selections, products. Some merge the two together and try to carry the best brands and offer the best prices all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And a big differentiator, which is difficult to necessarily communicate, but just what is your level of service, right? How do you treat these people? And that's always been a big thing in cannabis. Is just how are you going to treat the customers to get them to come back into your establishment? At Purple Lotus, that was, I think, Matt, the owner, that was always his biggest thing, is to make sure everyone received an A1 experience all the time, and that they really felt the love when they come into the shop. But how do you communicate that on a marketplace when you have, half a second to capture these customers or potential customers' attention, right? So there's little things like with Yelp, there's a lot of little things where it's, if you can't advertise per se on Yelp, but you can leverage some paid features, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can leverage the free features as well. So there is organic and paid marketing optimization available. Like, for example, I mean, graphics are one of the premier ways to communicate things, because a lot of people, especially in cannabis, you really have to understand. I mean, in marketing, you learn after 16 words, your comprehension rate for an advertisement drops below 50%. So if you keep that in mind and you're trying to capture a new customer, you're going to have to communicate your differentiator in an instant, in less than 5 seconds. And they're not, a lot of owners like to think, let's just put all this in text at the bottom of the listing, or
Yeah,
just
put it
put
at
it
the
out.
post. Put it in the Instagram post. Get it on Instagram. Get it on Instagram. Throw it
Yep.
all on there.
Yeah, write an essay and they'll get it, right? And here's all the reasons why we're better. It's like you need to communicate that in a clear, concise way immediately. And and the conversion rates can, if you just want to have, oh, well, let's run this loyalty program where they spend and save, and on their third visit they unlock this XYZ. It's like, you don't have that opportunity on these marketplaces. You need to keep
Yeah.
your deal, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah, you
That's,
got to have recent posts. You've got to
yeah,
have
fresh
updated
content.
photos. Fresh
Yep.
content, updated posts, updated images. There should be
Yep.
recent responses. No, in
Yep.
my world, every week this should be kept up on, so that way there's no
Yeah.
one's getting left behind for a week or longer.
Yeah. It even
And just some of
shows.
this, just some basic habits, right?
Yeah, it even shows on Yelp, like when the last time the listing was updated, and that's
Wow.
just something, a real clear way for customers to know, like, okay, is what I'm looking at real? Because that's also, I mean, back in the day, and this still holds true, but with Weedmaps, it was always, I don't know, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to place this order.
And
And
they have the product.
exactly,
That
exactly.
was so irritating back in the day.
Yeah, pre-integration days, it was the worst. I remember being at Purple Lotus and managing 5 different menus manually, and it was just like, this is not sustainable. This is a nightmare. And you're just trying to, like, add images and descriptions and product and hope you don't type something out incorrectly.
Right, right.
And
Um,
yeah,
a lot of cannabis isn't spending time on Yelp. So for those of you
yeah,
guys that need help with Yelp, a great opportunity for y'all to ask questions. Questions are free, right? Questions we're happy to answer, happy to give game. The account you can go make it yourself. Go make it now. Create
yeah,
it. Get the SEO value. Get some photos up there and start asking questions. You can chat GPT the questions. You can reach out directly to Kevin on LinkedIn. Kevin Sparks, he's right there. Look up Sparks in the description, folks. It's right there for y'all. Reach out in the comments, shoot him a question that you guys got. Now, let's transition over to Weedmaps. I want to talk about Weedmaps because I'm sitting in California. I literally go on my computer. I used to not. I used to do dispensary near me, And now I just pop on Weedmaps and look up a deal on there because I don't like having to shop through individual menus all over the place. And then again, I go
Exactly.
to a marketplace for deals. I just said it,
Yeah.
folks. And
Yeah.
so many other people like me are out there. So from a Weedmaps perspective, we've run them in the past for people. It's tough. It's time consuming, but
Yep.
if you can build out a series of processes that involve graphics, that involve proper messaging, that involve deal flow and engagement, and if the store or the retail, if they can do stuff inside the store to pair up with the Weedmaps in terms of getting more people to follow or more people to activate or to just use the deal in the store, whatever it is, if you get more participation, more engagement, you'll see growth. And so, Kevin, this is your time to shine, brother. What do you guys do to help somebody manage their Weedmaps, optimize it, and ultimately grow their revenue on that platform?
Yeah. I mean, it takes a village, right? Like even with hiring an agency like ours, where we can really take all the work off of your plate, there's still a level of buy-in that will always be needed from the retail team, from the bud tenders or whoever's helping facilitate these orders that come in. I send a weekly report to a lot of my clients that include the cancellation rate. A huge thing is having the data to be able to measure and understand where you're falling off, where you might not be performing at optimal levels. But one core KPI that we measure that I haven't really seen much other people do is measuring the cancellation rate. What are the reasons for the cancels? And that really starts and stops at the team on the sales floor who's managing it. Some people have an in-house team. Some people will just have their bud tenders kind of keep it open. But if we can get the floodgates to open for orders and no one's processing them, because they don't like how the UI is, or they don't like the process because it's, again, not perfect, right? That's just an easy way to just fail and drop the ball, right? So it's not stuff that's very complicated, but when an order comes in, you want to be able to set it to preparing and start processing it, ideally within 5 to 10 minutes. Then you want to have it ready for pickup or ready for delivery within 15 to 20 minutes. Ideally, you can get from order received to ready for pickup delivery within 15 minutes.
Wow.
That's really all the buy-in you need from the team once they hire us, right? Because, all right, we can get the order to come in. You need to make sure that the customer then knows that it's being taken care of. Because, again, back to our conversation, people understand that a lot of these marketplaces aren't being taken care of, and all of our clients do a great job with it. It's something we help coach them with. We make sure, in the weekly reports, we're measuring these things so that it's getting taken care of, but we're only representing, a small percentage of the overall base, right? So
Right, right, right.
there's still a lot of bad players out there that just don't really care, whether it's because they don't believe in the system, or, there's not
Well,
buy-in, or
a
they
lot
just,
of people have had frustrating experiences with account
yeah,
managers, right? Where it
yeah,
comes down to wasting the time and the money, and
yeah,
then they're sucked into these contracts that are a violent cycle or feel systematic in some instances where it's
yeah,
like they did it on purpose. And
yeah,
it's like that person was hired to get your business, and it's it does fall on them to teach you how to use the tech. Um, there's a giving and a take there that's probably been out of
yeah,
balance for sure. And
yeah,
then obviously there's this turnover issue, which is undeniable in the space. It's oftentimes it's the
right,
owner or a manager that's taking over, you're making these decisions, and then the person that they train or the
yeah,
human or that goes and comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes or whoever it
yeah,
is. And so, you have partnered up with a variety of retailers. What is that intake slash partnering process for you guys, and how easy is it for a brand to kind of do that fluidly and not miss a beat with y'all?
yeah. I mean, it can be as simple as, um, let's get your login info. Let's upload your data to our proprietary dashboard. Let's look at your data. Let's measure your efficiency metrics, how your promo codes are doing, how your deals are doing, how your graphics look, how's your branding, how are the free features, the verifications, the featured products, how are your paid options.
Man, this is a checklist. Whew,
Yeah, I mean, it's a
it's a lot.
lot. It's a lot more than
You,
people assume.
yeah, They're just looking. I feel like a lot of people they don't really know what they're looking for on these platforms. Some of these things that you said, they really stood out. Out of the list that you just kind of popped off there, what are some of the, would you say are some of those some of those really important ones?
Um, I would say it's how you merge together multiple free features. So you're going to most likely have some type of promotion running.
Yep.
Um, are you able to implement that promotion on the marketplace properly to where the user can land on your listing and be able to understand what the promotion is instantaneously and be able to redeem it? And so that's something that sounds very simple. But if you're talking about like one of the main things that all of our clients love is the ability to allow new and returning customer promotions through promo codes and on Red Strike through sales pricing without letting the customer be able to stack the discounts.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one thing that there's not really a way to do it other than a super manual process that my team takes care of every day, right? And so if you can offer a great new customer promotion, a great returning customer promotion, have those promos be able to be easily redeemed by the customer within a few clicks, right? Then you're really starting to increase your conversion rate. Combine that with just some solid branding and graphics to be able to communicate that easily as well. The most important thing is that you can convert at a higher rate. So a lot of our clients, when we first tap into them, they'll be at 1 to 2% listing page visitor to order conversion rate. And within 6 months, we're usually getting them to about 6, 7%. And
Wow.
so you can double your ad spend on platform and get, let's say, a 30, 40% uptick in listing page visitors. But if you're still converting at that same low rate, you're not going to be making nearly as much as if you took the same amount of listing page visitors and tripled the conversion rates of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So reading between the lines, it's better right now to redo, like if you're on Weedmaps right now, it would make, because it's early in the new year, it would make sense to reach out to identify what these key metrics are, these key indicators are in that you've identified are important in this ecosystem,
Yeah.
and having people determine, like, all right, look, we need to improve here, we need to do this, we need to reconsider this, maybe this copy here, maybe this deal here, maybe we double down on this right here, maybe we pull this one off or move our listing around, right? The
Yeah.
listing stuff is the listing real estate for dispensaries is the more expensive area. The deals are another, and the banners are another expensive area. And I say expensive, it's all market dependent, right? It's
Yep.
it's and for people to understand, it's priced because there are people ready to buy weed on there. That's a more expensive customer because they've done the work for us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's an endemic. I mean, their buzzword they always love to use is it's an endemic platform, right?
yeah,
There's only customers looking to buy weed on these platforms,
yeah,
and
it's
they're ready to
perfect.
buy
I
right now.
mean, it's an imperfect perfection. Like if I wanted to go hang out and talk to people and network with other people that buy weed like me, I could just be in the comments and be a user on their profile and do the social networking thing. People don't use Weedmaps for that, but it's able to be used for that, which is cool. And it's their own fault that they haven't done community the right way, but that's a different
Yeah.
story. That's a different issue for a different podcast with someone else. But ultimately, the viewers, the readers, the strain people, the dispensary searchers, the deal hunters, they're all there. And so, to summarize again, you said have a first time deal, have a returning deal. So if you are on Weedmaps now and you are paying them money, you need those two deals for sure, right?
If you want to get, and some people look at it, well, I'm digging into the margins if we're doing that, and I'll need, I don't know if I could be profitable with that. You can tap into a higher share of voice when you're offering the right promotions. And like the first thing you said, a lot of people are looking for deals on these platforms. It's a
Yeah.
big differentiator. So is it absolutely essential to be profitable? No, right? You can still have a great business and core offering and still be profitable. But if you want to tap into a larger share of voice and be able to really start to leverage these marketplace to pull these
Mm-hmm.
customers off platform into your own system, like yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you could just we've run the A/B tests from new customer discounts, from 10% to 30 to 40, 50%. And you can see there's a happy medium. We usually find, I mean, just 25% is where you can make the most bang for your buck. You'll pull in the most new customers onto your platform while still maintaining your margins.
Behaviors changes at 25 and the velocity increases as you go. It's up to the retailer and agencies and creative marketers and all these retailers to identify an in real time feasible solution to that challenge, which is what can we discount between 25 to 40% to drive velocity based on deal searchers, first time patients, maybe it's tourism or time, etc., etc. I think it's something to be said that someone like you on the team or working with partners like what we have with trees and other groups is to use the data to identify what moves the most units. It's okay to have 25% off while supplies last and you got 150 of them a day available. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no issue with being able to map out how much you can do to attracting a customer to get an average basket size, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Times X amount of customers, and then you turn it off during the hours you don't need to, like happy hour or rush hour. You don't need to give 25% discounts, between 3:30 in the afternoon and like 7:30 at night. You don't really need to do stuff like that all the time, right?
You don't need to. You can, right? And on
The right
this is
deal at the right time can pour gas on the fire and explode into greatness, right? But
yeah,
at the same time, it could be cutting into the margin, like their fear.
well, exactly. Like I was just talking to another retailer who has more of a kind of a restaurant. They're going to be one of the new licenses in SoCal, and it's something where in their own platform in house, it's not to their benefit to always be offering these promotions because they're
Mhm.
going to be getting a lot of tourists. A lot of people are just walking through the doors. They don't want to just cut into the margins. But on these marketplaces where you're competing with everyone and it's not your customer on your platform, they're entertaining all the potential options.
Yeah.
You do want to try to always give them the best potential offering just to get them through your doors. And it's not something people go overboard and let's do 40% off every order.
Did you just segment the customers into a customer that's this way doesn't even use this, and a customer that is looking for deals is on this? Did we just identify that? Can we just bring a moment to that, because I'm so sick of marketers just pushing, or the managers at a store just pushing send all on the text or the email to
Yeah,
everybody, or even again being afraid to do marketing because they don't want the tourists to see it or vice versa. No, man, put the deal in the right place where it's supposed to go. Segment your
exactly.
customers. Think differently. Ask Kevin questions,
Exactly.
folks. Get the game. You guys got to learn. You guys got to get it. Okay, I got to get back to some of these questions, Kevin. We've been freestyling too much. All right, we've been freestyling too much. All right, we talked about Weedmaps. There's some key functions there. There's real estate. There's banners. There's ads. There's deal flow. There's the different thing there. You can run deals in certain areas. You can there's push notification opportunities. There's a lot. And so if anybody has any questions about how to leverage that, Kevin is a great person to ask for those things. Let's switch to Leafly. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Leafly's the OG. Leafly and Weedmaps has been around. Leafly's the strain. They're getting between 8 and about 10 million or so views a month on their site. That doesn't mean that it's dispensaries, and it doesn't mean that those people are clicking strains and landing on Washington, Oregon, or California dispensaries, or anywhere else around the country for that matter. They can. It doesn't mean that they are. So,
That's right.
how do you increase traffic to brands and retail profiles while also increasing the conversion to just more sales in those markets?
Yeah. The two main components for Leafly that you want to be aware of. One is, I mean, exactly what you hit on. Leafly really started as kind of a search engine for cannabis, right? It's how you find strains, how you learn. I remember that was the platform I used when I was at Purple Lotus and trying to understand all the different strains. It's where a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people go to learn, right? And that was the kind of
Still
ethos.
is.
Still is, yeah. And so, you'll see on average about 40% of your traffic that comes onto your listing is going to be from strain searches,
Cool.
right? So a real important thing to do is to make sure that your menu, one, that you're carrying the top selling brands and products, right, and strains. But then also you want to make sure, similarly to Weedmaps,
Well,
Leafly has
that
their
those strains are paired to the products.
Exactly. You need to make sure that they have the
Mm,
actual tags. They have their own verification system within it. And they actually
wow,
have two forms of verifications on Leafly for each product. So
that's
one, you
great.
have to do the just high level. They kind of have like an AI pairing bot that you would leverage to make sure that it's a quote unquote verified product.
Hmm.
But then also the individual strains you want to make sure that are tagged properly so that when the customer or the user searches for those, they can find your menu and it gets promoted. And that's free organic traffic that you can always capture without having to pay for
Wow. So
additional
all you got to
advertising.
have is the profile, either the brand account, right, or the retailer account. You obviously
Yeah.
your menu integrates, right? If you choose
Yep.
to partner with Leafly, it integrates their
Got the
APIs and
right
all that good stuff.
POS.
Yeah, with the right POS. And
Yep.
you're then the retailer has to obviously label things correctly, right, and make it identifiable. Or they can choose to rock with you, and you'll help them do those processes. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. Someone will always have to manually log into the listing, and on the front end, it's not something you could just pair up on the POS
Mm,
system. You
wow.
you you want to make sure that you have your taxonomy right and everything's labeled correctly in a easily understandable way. But you'll always need to go in and then manually add these strains and do the kind of verifications to them, so that then they can be actually picked up by the algorithm and sent to
You said
your retail.
40%?
40%. Yeah, it's a
Wow.
large amount.
Free traffic.
Yeah, you just need a
Well, that's
listing.
not true. You're paying to be on the platform, but you're saying just by
Yeah.
playing the game right, you're going to get points.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're in the game, you don't need to necessarily pay for additional traffic for that type of funnel.
Correct,
Um,
correct. Which is valuable if you are a flower heavy, pre roll heavy, vape heavy store, right?
yeah,
Which relies a lot on a variety of strain and
yeah,
SEO pull and things like that.
yeah. A lot of these dispensaries with fat menus, they got all the best strains. They know what
Yep.
they're doing. It's an easy way to tap into these platforms, especially well, Leafly in particular. And then deals is the other way that's really like Leafly and Weedmaps are very similar, but they operate in very different ways. So Weedmaps, you'll have to kind of pay for each additional deal unless you're leveraging, sales pricing properly and kind of run it through the POS system. But traditionally speaking, if you want to really advertise it to the consumer, you got to pay for additional deal space per region, right? But on Leafly, they'll really empower you to promote as many deals as you have, which is great for the retailers. It's also great for the customers, right? Because they get a better experience and understand um, all the full promotions that you're offering in store.
Hmm.
And but with Leafly, you can pretty much, if you have 10 different deals being offered in the day, you can set up 10 different deals on the Leafly platform. Now it can be cumbersome because you have to manually plug in all of those deals, which is and again what we can help out with. You as the retailer, you can do it yourself as well. It's not like it's this very complex thing to do.
It's just time.
It's just time. Yeah, and there are components of it where you do want to program it in the right way. There's a lot of times where Leafly, Weedmaps does this too, but they will give you essentially free advertising and they'll promote your deal on the homepage, on the deals page, if they're a certain type of deal. But
Mm.
so like right now, I believe they're kind of promoting bundle specials on the homepage. So you want to be able to pivot your deals um, so that right now you're offering bundles, but in reality what's funny is there's a lot of retailers that are offering BOGOs that you
Hmm.
could just program in as a bundle, right? And it can work the same way. Now you're getting the free advertising, but you're offering all the same promotions.
Yeah.
So that's another important thing. Like, can
I
you
think we're
understand?
seeing. I think we're seeing on TV with the football commercials in the solid right now. I think we're seeing a bundle Rooski commercial quite a bit
Yeah.
with State Farm and
Yeah.
fucking the Chiefs guys, right?
Yeah, that's
Like
Jake.
everybody loves a good bundle.
Yeah, retailers love it, customers love it,
Customers love it.
more bang for your buck.
A
um
BOGO bundle.
BOGO bundle, funny enough, don't run BOGOs on Weedmaps though. You totally can, but it just works a completely different way because it comes back to the conversion rates, time to be able to educate the customers on the promotion. And if it's a BOGO on Weedmaps, you have to educate them on how to be able to redeem it. You can pay for a deal and advertise it, but it's not that easy to actually redeem it as a customer. And if there are way too many clicks involved for a customer to redeem the deal, it's just not going to perform well on platform. Leafly is the complete opposite. They make it very easy for customers to redeem BOGOs. It's really just click, click, added to cart, and then you see the discount automatically.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like BOGOs, bundles, great for Leafly. Weedmaps, you really want to try to lower the barrier to entry. You want to just do kind of a percentage dollar off categorically
Yeah,
where
they like
flower.
here. They want that $5 to $15 off, depending on how big their
Yeah.
purchase is, right?
Yeah, yeah, you'll see those. I mean, a great one also on Weedmaps. Yeah, spend and save. Spend a certain amount, you can get a discount on it. It needs to be simple. Whatever you're going to do, you don't want to saturate the environment with too many promotions that are just going to take forever to.
And you got to be market aware too.
Yeah,
These markets are all different, but it doesn't mean that you have to do what you see everybody else doing, right? Don't
100%.
be a trendsetter based on data-driven decision making instead of being a follower based on fear of missing out.
100%. I mean, that's like been the biggest flaw I've seen so many retailers make over the past decade on these platforms. Everyone's just following the leader, and you see one guy all of a
Race
sudden
to the
offering a
bottom, race
promotion.
to the bottom,
It's
race
a
to the
race.
bottom.
It's a race to the bottom, and half the time the promotions aren't even good for the platform. You're just doing what they're doing because some big name did it, and now you're trying to recreate it, and you're like, why haven't my sales gone up? But my AOV has plummeted and my margins are trash now. It's like, well, it wasn't a good promotion offer from
Nah,
the get-go.
nah. And now, not to rely on AI too much, but you guys, there is the opportunity to ask questions, use AI, use real time in questions with Kevin, talk to other agencies and determine if that works. To ask, talk to Springbig and Trees
Yeah,
and Weedmaps and Leafly, and get somebody on the phone from Yelp and take the meetings, learn.
yeah,
That's the biggest thing, right? Is you know Kevin and I are really in sync here that, as a resource, you guys, if you're a retailer or a brand and you want to make more money, it's all about relationship building and team building and collaboration, right?
yeah,
And when you are consistent at those things, you're going to end up seeing progress if you really, really are honed in to your message, to your product, to the commitment to deliver quality to your people, right? And what I'm really excited about with you guys is these different states have different needs and wants, and there's different brands, different markets, different data, and it's hard to know all of that while
yeah,
also performing within it.
yeah.
And so, what do you recommend to that dispensary out there, to that social media coordinator, to that general manager out there who's getting tasked with all these things? What ultimately do you recommend that they do? What's a good first step for them when it comes to Weedmaps, when it comes to Leafly? If they're on those three currently, what's a quick summary, 3-minute summary of, like, what do you recommend that they do that could potentially help put them in a better direction?
Call me and get a free audit. Just let us read the data for you for free so you can understand where you're inefficient.
Yeah.
Because intuition is going to be right 50% of the time. And everyone's always looking for the golden bullet. What's the right answer? All the products you labeled out, the display ads, the premium positions, the listings, the deals, the promo codes, the promo tiles, the SERP, the savings banner. Which one's the best? It's different for every market. And it depends on what the saturation levels are. It depends on what the competition is doing. Everything's going to boil down to just what does the data say? Because if you're going off intuition, I mean, my intuition, I've been doing this for 10 years now on these platforms, and it's still right half the time. I love to test stuff out, but that's why we built this dashboard, to be able to tell a story and to be able to quickly understand where you're messing up, where your opportunities are. And I'm more than happy for anyone who just needs help to do a free quick audit, plug into your data, and just tell you real quick, here's probably where, here are your best opportunities where you can improve. And you can just take that and run with it, or you can have us implement it, make sure it's done properly. But more than happy to just
Take the meeting, you guys. Take the free game. Take the audit. Just to visit their website again. Optimize advertising and measure results on Weedmaps, Leafly, and Yelp. Strategy, branding, promotion, analytics. Stop throwing darts randomly. They've built the dashboard. They can use the analytics to tell you what to do, when to do it, who, what, where, when, why, and what products and how it's going to get there and what platform it's going to go on and what time of the day and all these different things that go into it. That's so powerful. This shit is what gets me going, man. It's so cool to be able to manage a Weedmaps or a Leafly and be able to have great products behind you that help people and know that you're running a deal that's going to be more effectively seen by people in this region at this time for this price, and they're going to go in there and do it and get a great deal and want to come back. When you think about it less like selling weed and more like providing value, data-driven value, you're actually helping get this weed more efficiently to these people. Otherwise, we might as well just all buy a little dispensary somewhere, a little business somewhere, and just put a billboard up outside. Oh, wait, dispensaries are only allowed so many freaking signs and attachments and logos and things. You just can't. So you have to put your brand and your business and meet the people where they're at. It's things like Weedmaps and Leafly and Yelp where people are already looking up dispensaries. They're already looking up restaurants. They're already looking up places to go and things to do and where they can spend their money. Having that be rerouted is huge. Having the content be fresh and active and accurate and attractive and relatable is huge. Now, before we get you out of here, I had a couple more questions for you. I was looking through the website. I was trying to find some of your clients for a case study. You've been talking about Purple Lotus a lot. What are some of the other bangers you got in Cali and in any other states as well?
Yeah, I mean, I like to under promise, over deliver, but if we're just looking again at the data, we've had amazing success with really every customer we've ever worked with. I don't think we've ever had a client come through and not improve their return on ad spend. But Purple Lotus, for example, right? They were advertising on Weedmaps for a decade, before we started taking over. And they knew, to their best extent, the ins and outs of the platform. We were able to improve their ROAS by 50% within the first 6 months,
Wow.
which is huge, right? Like a 50% increase in return on ad spend is very dramatic, especially when these platforms are ones where you can invest heavily in and they can actually be scalable, right? And then
And that's in a hyper competitive area too. The Bay, that's a San
extremely.
Jose store, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah, that's
16
huge.
other retailers in San Jose. It's a big market, right? So no doubt there's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, it's very, very saturated, very competitive. A market that it was established very early on in cannabis. I remember when they first launched, 100 licenses, and then they had to pull back from that. But there's still, a good amount of licenses in the area and they had been doing it for a long time. And there's just key tweaks that you can really make, and consistency is key with these platforms. You're always giving it the TLC. You're always promoting all the promotions and menu and graphics and branding all in the right light. And when you bring all that together, you can see these really high increases in conversion rates. And then when you look at on platform, that's one story. But then when you start looking at the long-term success of these platforms or of these businesses, when they've been advertising on Weedmaps, these marketplaces for a long time, the narrative that these marketplace customers aren't sticky is false, right? Anyone who's saying that online has never looked at the actual data. They're looking at it incorrectly. I will go to battle against anyone that wants to say that they aren't sticky,
They
because
may not be stuck, but they're definitely sticky. We will shop at a
yeah,
place 3, 4, 5 times in a row until until they don't
yeah,
stock up again, and
yeah.
then we got to go buy that shit
They're
somewhere else.
Yeah, they're not yours for life, right? You can
Yeah,
lose them at any point in time, but yeah, to say, oh, you'll get a purchase one time from them and then they'll be gone. Like, no, people aren't looking for just one new place every time. They're looking for the best option in their area. And so they start on the marketplace. And if you give them the good experience, they will come back. And
huge.
exactly to your point, like, yeah, they can totally still check out other people. They know where to find other locations, right? So that's why you always need to maintain consistency with them.
I
Um,
love it, man. I love it. I'm seeing Airfield Haven, Tropicana on your site, man. You got some bangers, Purple Lotus, Catalyst. Let's go, man. Some really solid heavy hitters in the California cannabis market. For those of you guys watching, I've got Kevin Sparks, your CEO, founder of Sparks, sparkscan.com. Reach out. Feel free. You can type in his name, Kevin Sparks, on LinkedIn. You see his face. It's the same one on his LinkedIn profile. Make sure you guys shoot him a DM. If you guys got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. It's been a really great episode with you today, Kevin. I appreciate you guys, man. We've got 2 episodes coming up. 3 more episodes coming up this next month in February of the Oregon Cannabis Podcast, the California Cannabis Podcast, and another episode with Kevin here in a few weeks. where we'll be talking about either probably Weedmaps and Leafly a little bit more intimately and closely. We might do a little bit of webinar stuff. We'll see. I gotta get my ideas wrapped around about what I want to talk with y'all and him about. That'll be coming with y'all soon. But for now, make sure you guys tap in. We'll be showcasing a couple of retailers here from Oregon and California over the next couple of weeks. And again, for those of you guys that have questions, feel free to reach out, sparkscan.com. Kevin, do you have anything else you'd like to leave with the people?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on. I've always respected what you guys are doing, and I love the opportunity, man. Happy to be here.
Come on, man. I appreciate you guys. And of course, we appreciate your partnership here on the RMR Podcast Network. We look forward to rocking with y'all. To any retailers out there, Oregon, California, and beyond, if you are spending money on Weedmaps, Leafly, or if you're currently not doing anything on Yelp, you are leaving money on the table. Take an audit, have a convo, take a meeting with my guy, Kevin Sparks here, and let's figure out a way to make you guys some more money, man. This is what this is all about. The Cannabis Retail Podcast, Episode 1, brought to you guys by Sparks and Respect My Region. I'm Joey JayPing. This is Kevin.